Hello, my name is Lance Winslow, and today I want to talk to you about doing your business plan for a um, boat detailing and yacht cleaning business. Now, perhaps you already have a mobile detailing business you want to break into the marine sector, or perhaps you have a marine business already and you want to add boat detailing to your market mix. Those are all good ideas. Maybe you're just starting from scratch and you love boats, you love sailing, you love being out on the water, and you think that that might be a good place to make some money. Kind of combine your hobby and your love of the water and being down at the marina with a way to make some money. Okay, so if you're going to make a business plan, which you're going to need, especially if you want to get startup capital, if you want to borrow money from the bank, or if you want to find investors or do crowdsourcing, or however you want to go ahead and get the capital to start your company. Maybe you're going to take money from your savings and you want to make sure you're going to make money and you're not going to blow all your money. Because when you start a business, it's very easy to burn through a lot of money very quickly and not make anything unless you're really paying attention. Okay, so the most important part of a business plan, I would say, is the numbers. I mean, you can write all kinds of jazzy stuff, and you can be an MBA and just dazzle everyone and baffle them with the proverbial BS. But when it comes right down to it, you need something that's more legitimate. So we need to talk about facts. And facts in this case would be money, expenditures, exact capital you'll need to start your business. And there is a tendency of entrepreneurs to become supreme optimists. So you might say, "Oh, I'm going to start my business for only $10,000, and I'm going to have this money paid back, and I'm going to be making lots of money within just a couple months." Well, you know that really isn't how things work. You have to build your business up, get some clientele going. Even if you have a number of very large accounts right away, that's not necessarily mean they're going to pay you on time. So then you have maybe another 30 days waiting for your money, and then you get the money, and you get a little cash flow lag. So you have to think about all these things and the amount of cost that you got to put out until that money starts coming in. Okay, so first let's talk about what it's going to what it's going to cost you to get started. Capitalization costs. That means buying the equipment, all the things that you're going to need. Perhaps you're going to need a pressure washer or a real nice hot water pressure washer, and those are very expensive. You're going to need water tanks, lighting, safety gear. You're going to need a shop vac, extension cord, squeegees, pressure washer hoses, hose reels, some kind of a system to transport it and bring it to the job site. And then there's a number of ways you can do this. You have to decide if you're going to run a marine detailing business where you're going to use, let's say, a portable detail trailer, which you're going to drive to the parking lot of the marina and then take your equipment onto the dock to clean the boats. Or if you're going to get a pontoon boat, in some places this isn't allowed, but some places it is, where you're going to actually parallel park on the boat you're cleaning with some bumpers and things like that, and you're going to clean the boat in the water from your boat. And I'm not recommending that for everyone unless you've been doing this a while and you kind of understand how things work, or if you're doing a weekly wash service where you're only charging, let's say, a couple bucks a foot per boat for a deionize or reverse osmosis freshwater rinse on the boats, cleaning all the windows, spiffing them all up for the weekend for your clientele. But that's a good business if you do get into it. Okay, so if you're going to do a mobile detail trailer, you might have a marina where the dock is not very long, and you can be right out in the parking lot where you can stretch your hoses along the dock. That's fine if that's allowed. Some places they don't want a bunch of hoses going down the dock, or it would just be too much distance to get everything out there, and you'd have to run your equipment from the parking lot. Or you might get a dry dock situation where you're actually detailing all the boats in a dry dock. You're taking them out and doing a full, complete go-through, which gets into restoration and other things like that. And that takes more time and more energy and more insurance and a little bit more hassle, but you can do the higher end jobs that last a while longer and it's a different kind of a business. Okay, so once you decide what type of business you're going to be involved with, you need to decide if you want new or used equipment. Some entrepreneurs say, well, I just want to go in as cheap as I can and get some used equipment and get going right away and start making money. Well, that's a good idea, okay, if you can get used equipment that is actually in working order. If you buy a used steam cleaner, a hot water pressure washer, then there could be something wrong with the Schedule 80 coils. You could have cracks in them. You could have problems with your pump. The thing won't work right. You need new belts. There's just, and when the stuff breaks on the job, it just kind of ruins your whole day, and it makes it so you can't make the money you thought you were going to make, and then all of a sudden all your pro forma numbers for your income side of your profit and loss statement go to hell, and you have all these expenses and all this labor sitting on the job where you can't do anything. So you need to think about that. Now, it's true you can pick up a used pressure washer, a pretty nice one, 5.5 gallons per minute on a Honda motor with a cat pump, and you could probably get something like that for $200 or $300 used. If you get a real nice one, that could cost you $500-600. Maybe you can find them on sale at Home Depot for a little bit cheaper. But remember, some of the components on those parts are the cheapest made for those vendors to get their equipment into the Home Depot. Some people call it Home Cheapo. But hey, if it's the cheapest price, I'm good with that. And then there are other vendors that can sell you some really top-notch quality equipment for the industry grade stuff, and that works good too. So if you're getting an industry grade steam cleaner, you can expect to spend $800 or $900 for something like that, just for the pressure washer. That's a cold water unit. Hot water unit, you might be able to get a used hot water unit. Be careful buying a used hot water unit. Usually people sell them because they're not working so great anymore. They've had problems themselves or whatever it is. Okay, so how about looking at a used hot water pressure washer at $1,000, $1,500 to $3,000, and a new one, if it's a skid unit, something really solid and great, you really could spend upwards of 10 grand. Probably $5,000 to $10,000. So, and if you're going to have a dry dock situation, that might be the right equipment you need. So you need to consider those kinds of costs. Extension cords, squeegees, pressure washer hoses. You need to get the good stuff. The stuff's not cheap. You could be paying $2 or $3 a foot for the pressure washer hose, and you want a good ladder, one that has rubber bumper guards on the bottom and stuff, so you're not scratching stuff. And you want something that's pretty solid. You don't want to fall off a boat into the water, and you don't want the ladder to fall over in the wind and ding something on someone's boat. Now, you can easily put a corner of a ladder through someone's window of their boat, or put a big scratch mark in the side. That's just not cool. There's no excuse for it. So, on a pontoon boat, you could be looking at everything from one vendor for about $20,000 new. You can get a used one for $2,000 to $5,000 and put about $3,000 of work into it yourself and deck it all out the way you want it. Mount the tank right in the center so you have a good center of gravity, and put the equipment on it. Remember, when you're working with a pontoon boat, you don't want to get a small one. You want to get a fairly large one, because you start putting extra weight, like water. Water weighs 8.2 pounds per gallon, so you're going to be filling up that water tank. It's going to get heavy. And when it gets heavy, it's hard to maneuver. You need more power, and it's easily sinkable. A little bit of extra weight, and you weren't paying attention, and you get that thing into a situation where it's no good. You're going to start sinking it. And I'll tell you, that's not very funny. Then you're draining all the water out as fast as you can to get the buoyancy back up, and you're tilting sideways or on its end, and it's just a nightmare. And also, you want to make sure, if you buy a used one, you're not buying somebody else's damaged pontoons. If you get one that's everything from one vendor, and you wrap it all into some kind of a long-term pleasure boat lease or loan, you might be able to get your payments down to around $200-300. So that's really a nice thing, low cost getting into that. But then you're gonna have to think of scuba equipment, because if you're washing boats on the water, you need to get underneath the holes, and most people demand that. If not, they're hiring two different companies, one to clean the bottom, one to clean the top side. You need to decide what you're going to specialize in, and remember, scuba equipment's not cheap, so you have to figure those into your costs. If you're going to take everything down the dock from your equipment for your truck, you need some kind of an offload system, kind of like the pool cleaners do, where they have little things that ride along on the back of their vehicles in like a little slot for their bumper hitch. And then they just pull that off, and then they wheel it into work in someone's backyard. If you're going to use a situation like that, it makes sense. You might look at what those folks are doing, come up with something for yourself, something with big tires and nice tread, um, wheels, like a wagon type situation where you can wheel it right to where you're working, and something that's not going to move around, and it chocks itself, where it locks the wheels so they don't move once you get to the boat you're working on, because sometimes the docks can tip a little bit, or the wind can come up, and you lose the whole thing in the water. I mean, I'm speaking from experience. Okay, we've done all that. It hasn't been funny, and it ruins your whole day. All your towels and chamois and all your equipment and everything, it ends up in the water, and you're fishing it all out, and some ends up at the bottom, and uh, it all gets ruined, and it just ruins your day too. Now, you're also going to need inventory. So once you decide how much you're going to spend on capital and all the pieces of equipment you're going to need, and really go through this, even the fenders and the bumpers, and the lighting and the extension poles, um, uh, the safety equipment, really, I want you to, and we can brainstorm. If you want to send me an email, we can talk about some of the things you're going to need. You really need to look at all this equipment, itemize it all out, go find out how much each piece costs, look through the catalogs, the boating catalogs. Be careful, though, if you go down to the local boating supply place. Those prices are really expensive. Sometimes you're better off to find the stuff in a catalog online. But if you do find a good boating supply place and tell the guy, hey, or the gal who's running the place, you say, hey, I'm starting this business. I need a little help. If I buy everything here, can you give me some discounts? Usually they'll work with you. And you never know. They might even finance some of it, where they're giving you at their cost, where you pay that part up front, and then you pay them a little bit as you go. So you might think about that as well. And then you need to put all that stuff on your startup costs, and itemize it and add it all up. Then what I recommend you do is you add about 30% to that, or even double it, because you know that there are going to be things you didn't think of. There's other things you need. You got to put in there signage for your vehicle, because you need to get business, or you need signage on your equipment that you roll onto the dock, or a little A-frame sign so people know that you're working there. You don't want the A-frame sign to have too much space, though, because the wind will tip it over. So you got to think of all this, think it all out, and add up all the costs. Signage isn't cheap either. You got to add that in. So once you have all this itemized and a little bit of extra fluff, just because no one's perfect on this stuff, there's always extra things that you got to add. Then you kind of get an idea of your capitalization. Now, as far as starting a business, you also need inventory to start. You need cleaners like aluminum cleaner, brass cleaner, chrome cleaner. You need degreasers, waxes, polishes, squirt bottles, wax pads, chamois, towels, buffer pads. All these things you're going to need. You're going to need sponges and squeegee handles, and it adds up. I mean, you'd be surprised. You could easily spend $600 or $700 in your original inventory, and then as that inventory draws down, you got to realize that you got to replace it, which is the ongoing expense. So you need to decide that part of the equation too. Now, also with the startup of your business, the capitalization, you need to consider your business licenses. If you have a little bit of wealth behind you, and you own a home, and you have some of this other stuff, you may want to incorporate and get an LLC. Each state's different. If you're in Florida, it's a little different than you are if you're in Washington State, or if you're in Minnesota, or if you're in California, or if you're in Texas or Nevada, or someplace where it's cheaper, Georgia, wherever you are. If you're in Virginia, or in the Boston area, all the different costs that you might be spending for incorporation are going to be different. I can't give you one here. I know California is very expensive, and about $800 a year for the incorporation papers. And I know that filing something like that, you're going to have to hire an attorney. You shouldn't be doing that stuff yourself unless you really know what you're doing. So you're going to have to figure out your incorporation costs. Then you're going to probably need an activity permit. If it's a county-owned marina or a city-owned marina, they're going to want you to have special permits, and they're going to want to know who you are, and background checks at some of these places too. You should expect all that. Also, your workers will need background checks. So if you have a couple workers going in with you to start this business, consider that part of your startup capital costs as well. You probably should join the Chamber of Commerce and make yourself look legitimate. If you think about joining the BBB, the Better Business Bureau, and I don't even like that group, but let's say you want to look good, then maybe that might be an idea. I don't recommend doing that, but that's another cost. So that's another $300. So let's say you have $200 or $300 for your Chamber of Commerce, $200 or $300 for the Better Business Bureau. You might want to join a yacht club. You might want to get a fictitious name statement going. You might want to put an original advertisement in the Sea Cadets or the Boy Scout Marine Explorers. You might want to get in with some of these nonprofit groups, and that initial membership will cost you money too. Then you're going to start up a bank account. You have to put some money in the account. You have to pay a little bit to get it started. And that's something you're going to have to come out of pocket with. So think of all these things, and then remember there is insurance costs. You're going to have insurance. You really shouldn't be working on other people's boats without insurance unless you have no assets yourself and you're just a young person starting out and you don't have anything to protect. But eventually the marina is going to require you to have insurance in case you do something to someone else's boat or liability. And at that point, you're going to have to start thinking about this stuff. So consider getting insurance. And if you're going to dry dock the boats, you need garage keeper's liability. It costs a little bit more. Even if you're renting a space, they're probably going to want additionally insured. They're not going to want to be sued for anything that you do in a space you're renting in a dry dock situation to clean the boats. Okay. So, and you might need a parking permit to get your vehicle into the marina area, and that's going to cost you money as well. So, really think about all this stuff, and then, like I said, add 30%, maybe even half again as much on your capitalization as a buffer. Because if you're telling an investor, or if you're looking at your savings account and going, well, I have this amount of money. Well, if that's not enough amount of money based on a 30% fluff, because you're going to make mistakes. You're going to think things didn't cost as much as they did. And then remember, there's another, in different states, there's 7, 8, 9, almost 10% sales tax. You have to add that to everything you're doing. So just because you have all the prices, you didn't add in the sales tax, that's another 10%. Well, do you have that extra 10%? Because if you don't have it, you have to borrow it. If you have to borrow it, you have to pay the money back in interest. If you have an investor and you told them it's going to cost this much, then you go look to them later and you say, I really need a little bit more. That's just not good. Know what you need up front, add a little bit extra, have a little bit extra in the bank before you go for this. Okay. So now I want to talk to you about your expense side of your P&L, not the balance sheet for your capitalization costs that you know you're going to incur to start the business, but how much you're going to spend each month. And you got to think of, there's a cell phone bill, and you got to consider cleaning supplies, and then you got to your fuel for your vehicle and those insurance costs. You're going to find you might pay insurance up front. You're going to pay over 10 months, so you're going to have a original down payment on your insurance for the year, and then you're going to have monthly payments. And so you need to figure out what those are going to be. And then if you're going to have labor, if you're going to have a business going, once you start getting a few jobs, you're going to have to pay someone, okay, to help you. And now that can cost you $12 to $15, $18 an hour. And that you might say to me, well, I'm going to hire people for $9 an hour. Oh yeah, but you forgot about Obamacare. You forgot about all these other employment costs and employer contributions to the payroll. All that stuff's real. It really will cost you real money. So don't think that it's just $9 an hour. You're paying a lot more on that paycheck to government agencies for taxes and all these other kinds of things. So know what you're getting into, and if you need to, go talk to an accountant. Most accountants will give you a little bit of information for free without charging you. You can talk to a lawyer usually for 30 minutes about your incorporation. They'll give you all the costs and what you're looking at before you pay them $1. You can kind of make your business plan. You can also go to the Small Business Administration, or if you have an SBDC in your area, sit down with one of their business consultants. That's really worth your time. These guys have all been in business before. They have the SCORE and the ACE, Active Corps of Retired Executives, and the Retired Corps of Executives, and they work with these groups. And you can go in and have an appointment and talk to them for an hour or two, and they'll give you information. You can email me. I'll talk to you. We can play back and forth with emails with questions you might have. But really, look into writing a business plan. A lot of entrepreneurs don't want to write one. You need to do this. And the most important part of your business plan, even if you don't do anything else, is to get down with like a yellow notebook, pad of paper, and start writing down the costs. Go through all the things online and find out where you're going to get everything, and then how long it's going to take to put it all together. If you start buying everything online and they're going to order it and ship it to you, some of these are smaller companies. It may take. It's not like Amazon. It's not coming the next day. So and it's not coming by UAV, right? It's not going to fly into your doorstep and drop down. It's going to come, third tier carrier, and they're going to drop it off on a pallet. So and it may be 3 weeks. So you have that time to consider, and the time of all this running around you're going to spend in gasoline and running around the city and doing all this stuff. And a lot of government agencies where you get business licenses now are closed on Friday to save money for their budget. And so you're going to have all kinds of things that you're just going to go. You're going to pull your hair out because they make it so tough on the small business person to get started. In some ways, I guess that might be good. There's less competition, but in many ways, it's really a drag on our economy because until you get started, you can't get business coming in, you can't hire anyone, and it's a tough deal. So this is probably why most businesses don't succeed. They don't estimate their capital startup costs correctly when they start, and so then they end up having bigger debt that they didn't expect, or borrowing money, or taking on more partner, and then they don't get a percentage of their income because they're giving it away to their partners. And next thing you know, they're not making any money. And the reason is they didn't figure out all this stuff ahead of time. You must figure all this stuff out. Write it down. I've given you a few ideas. I do have an ebook online, How to Start Your Own Detail Business by Lance Winslow. You can find that on Amazon Kindle. And I have some sample business plans. You might want to go through and get one of those and look at some of the costs all itemized out. That might be an idea for you. Or, you know what, there are a lot of people in the mobile detailing business and people cleaning boats. You might just talk with one. Maybe go to a different area where you're not going to be competing with someone, or get online and get on the detail forums and talk to some of these guys. These guys are smart. I mean, you may think, well, they don't have a degree, they didn't go to college, they don't have an MBA. You know what? They have an MBA in experience. These guys have been doing it forever. They know what they're doing. Seriously, this industry is filled with people that are pretty smart and pretty damn good at what they're doing. They're artists, craftsmen, a mentality of making a perfect detail on every car, boat, or airplane they do, but they also know the ins and outs of the business like the back of their hands. Seriously, we've got a lot of experience in this industry, so tap into it and be one with us, so we can get out there and do a good image and a good job and a good service to all the customers. That builds up the entire industry and makes it a very professional industry and something people can trust. Because there are a lot of industries out there, the carpet cleaning business and stuff, where there's just too many fly-by-night people out there trying to gouge the customers, and you don't want to be like that because you want the referrals and you don't want your industry drawn down. That's probably why the good people stay in this business, and the people that can't hack it, they're out of business, which is good. That provides more used equipment for people because people went into business and thought they would scam customers or try to do something. They end up selling their equipment cheap, usually brand new with very few hours on it. That's why sometimes you want to look for used equipment as well, or leases where they didn't get paid off and they traded it back to the company and now they're selling it used with only a few hours on it. So ask about those kinds of deals when you're working with professional hot water pressure washer companies, because you'll find Landa and Hoxie and various dealers, and there's a lot of good companies out there, not just those name brands that have been around for 30 or 40 years. There's some new people in the industry that really know what they're doing too. So, especially in Florida and California, people make custom detail trailers, and these are all super people. I've met almost everyone, and they do great work. And you can buy a whole full setup already done. So you might want to call them and see what they've got, figure out those prices for your capitalization startup, and then you want to get a spreadsheet going with all the itemized costs. Figure out every single thing it's going to take for you to run your business. Go through your mind and just imagine yourself driving out for the day to go clean someone's boat. And you need uniforms, and you need signage, and you need gas in your vehicle, and you need equipment, and you need brochures, and you need business cards. And start adding all that stuff up. And put all that stuff into your original startup. And as your brochures go down, because you've used them up, how often do you think you'll need to print new brochures? Maybe you're going to change your prices next year, maybe in 6 months after you get your business going. Then you're going to need all new brochures again. Then you have all these old brochures. Well, you might save the old brochures because you never know when it'll be off season, or the economy will go down and you'll have to lower your prices back down. Okay, so those are the things I want you to think about when you're making your pro forma. That's the spreadsheet for your business plan. And for your capitalization startup costs, which you're definitely going to need if you're getting into this business, whether you're spending your own money that you've saved, that you've worked hard for in another job or another business, or if you're going to go for crowdfunding, people want to know what it's going to cost you, what you're going to use the money for, or if you're going to ask one of your relatives or friends or someone you know that is a wealthy gentleman down the street. Okay, whatever it is, you're going to need these things in your business plan. Okay, you have any comments or questions, you can shoot me an email. By the way, I've written everything that I'm discussing here today in an ebook called How to Start a Boat Cleaning Business or something like that. Anyway, go to Amazon Kindle, search my name, Lance Winslow, and you'll find a boat detailing manual and a boat how to start a boat cleaning business. And I think they're only $3 or $4, not expensive stuff. So you can download these on an e-reader, and then you'll have all this information. And you know what? Go through some of the other videos that are on YouTube, not just this one, but really look at some of the other ones. I went through them all, and I cannot believe how much expertise is online. It's just amazing. It's almost like there's free tutorials of how to do every single type of service for a boat and every single type of product on every type of boat. It's just amazing. It's a wealth of information, and you should spend your next 100 hours, seriously, from this day forward, the next 100 hours, just going through every single YouTube video that you can find on the boat detailing business. You will learn an immense amount. This is a great industry with great people who know what they're doing. And quite frankly, I am surprised at the level of quality, integrity, and passion in this industry. I've got it. I hope you'll have it. And I hope you'll join all of us and do it right. Okay, so thanks a lot and have a great day.